So in the last class, I covered one topic that was orbital effect in communication system performance. So what we saw was because of this Earth's oblateness, the because of the Earth's oblateness, one thing that we have seen in the last class was regression and rotation of apside. Now, this is different from the Earth's oblateness that we are experiencing. This is because the Earth's axis is actually changing its inclination with respect to the sun, and which is minimum is 0. That is when the Earth and the sun's orbital plane are in line. That is at an equinox. So this condition occurs twice. One is a summer equinox and the other is a winter equinox. And the two more conditions that occur is when you have the maximum inclination, that is 23.5 degrees, that we call as summer solstice and spring solstice and autumn solstice. So what we observe is that at equinox, the first thing that we experience is the two things. One is an eclipse and the other is sun transit. Eclipse is a condition when the shadow of the Earth falls on the satellite and the satellite is not able to get the solar power and hence is not able to generate its energy, and because of which you need to shut down many services. And the second is a sun transit. That is, the satellite is in between the sun and the Earth. That is again at equinox. The sun's heat is actually interfering with the signal, and therefore you have a deteriorated signal to noise ratio, and we basically do not get a good quality, or we get a very poor quality signal during that time, and we need to actually depend on other satellite during this period for communication purpose, or basically we have to wait for the satellite to come out of the sun transit region. Another thing that we did in this was we did the proof for how many days the satellite will be in eclipse region and what is the maximum duration that the satellite will be in eclipse in one day. So we could prove that it is around 69 minutes, that is maximum the satellite will be in the eclipse region. And the second thing is we also prove that the eclipse starts is a condition which starts 21 days before or 22 days before the equinox to 22 days approximately after the equinox. So it is basically for 42 days this will continue, and that will happen twice in a year. The next thing that we did was a Doppler effect. The Doppler effect is because of the relative motion. The frequency that is being transmitted from the transmitter and that is being received by the receiver are different because of the relative motion or the velocities of the transmitter and the receiver. So we need to calculate what will be the frequency shift so that we actually get the correct signal. Otherwise, there are chances that we may lose the signal if we start tracing it at the same frequency of transmission. And the last was the range variation. What is the range? Range is nothing but the distance from the Earth station to the satellite, and this may vary depending upon the Earth's tilting towards the sun or away from the sun. So when it is towards the sun, sometimes it will be large and sometimes it will be less. So depending upon this range, what will happen is the time taken by the signal to travel will also change. And in case we are using a time division multiplexing, the band gap has to be actually decided, or basically the guard band has to be decided, so that there is actually we are taking into the worst case scenario so that there is no overlapping or an aliasing condition. So this is what I covered in the last class, and I even showed you some videos. So this was a part of the video which I showed. This is an eclipse condition, and this will be an, in case the satellite is in this region, it is in the eclipse region, it is in this region, sorry, equinox. If it is in this region, it will have a sun transit, and these are the two conditions which are when you have the maximum inclination. Down was the first thing that you observe. That is, first thing is we need to launch the satellite at the right time. I gave you a reason for it, was why you need to launch it at the right time is, in the last lecture itself I told you that eclipse is a condition which you want to occur during the night time of the basically the working hours. It should not be in the morning time, because shutting down the services is leading to lot of data loss which cannot be avoided, and therefore the right time of the satellite to be launched in the orbit should be such that whenever the eclipse condition occur, it is a time of least traffic, and we need to actually not impact the working system. The second thing that you see was it was 3 stages. Now the reason for why it is 3 stages was, can anyone tell me why this 3 stage or 4 stage? Sometimes you even have a 5 stage also. So my only question is, can anyone talk on this is 3 stages? कोई बता सकता है क्यों चाहिए 3 स्टेज? क्या मैं डायरेक्टली basically when I have to launch basically when I have to launch a satellite in a geostationary orbit, what I want is it should have a velocity of 3.07 kilometers per second. So can I not launch it directly from the earth at that velocity, so that वो सीधा जाएगा geostationary orbit माने 36,000 kilometer from the surface of the earth and starts revolving at that velocity? Yeah, but sir, please tell me.
No, ma'am, we should not do that because of the engine. Because in the atmosphere, engines are different. So we get a very low mileage sort of ISP. Then we are in space. So space engines are very efficient. So if you only use one stage engine, then that engine is too bad and a lot of fuel is required, and to turn the spacecraft, it would be very difficult.
The first thing that you correctly said was you require a lot of fuel, right? You require a lot of fuel to actually take the launching vehicle at the same velocity right from the earth to the space and then directly launch it in the orbit. Did you observe certain things? There were, I just wanted to take a screenshot of that to show you that there were certain points that the satellite orbit was revolving and changing the tracks. So this is what I wanted to show you, was the first thing that you observe perfectly, that was correct as a countdown. The second thing that I agree with Vatsal, that you require more fuel in case if you, because launching a satellite in a geostationary orbit simply needs taking the satellite to orbit height of 36,000 kilometer and giving it a speed of straightaway speed of 3.7 kilometers per second, right? Finally, the objective is this only. Now, okay, the next thing that you said was an intersatellite distance. Yeah, so intersatellite distance I don't think is much of concern when I'm talking about this. The next thing that you said was, I'm not able to see the chat box. Okay, anything else you have written? I'm not able to see the chats. Did you write anything else? Yeah, I got it. Okay, it will take 2 months, a lot of planning and calculation. Yes, we could see planning. One thing is when it should be, what height it should be attaining, what velocity it should be attaining, how it will be attaining that particular velocity, and there is lot of time required to actually move from the surface of the earth to the final geostationary orbit where you want to launch it. Then the satellite travels 12 kilometers before reaching the final. 12 million kilometers, definitely it's not straight away from the surface of the earth that it is reaching a geostationary. It is taking lot of revolutions around the earth while crossing the uh, uh, pull of the earth, and then reaching into the space and then reaching the final velocity. Then first it is heavy, correct. The first thing that you said, and you remember these were the points, orange arrows, जहाँ पे आपको just thrusters activate हुए थे. So that blue light, that was nothing but an energy that is was. Initially, the satellite follows an elliptical orbit and it has to be set up in a geostring perfectly. This is what he has shown, that here again you provide it an energy to change its shape, right? In all this process, one important thing that is, the satellite is being launched in the, it is all these orbits that you see are in the same plane, means the inclination of the satellite moving from the surface of the earth to attaining its final orbit is not changing. It is all happening in the सेम प्लेन. यू विल नॉट से दैट यहाँ पे कुछ और प्लेन था, ये अलग प्लेन है, नहीं. ये सब कुछ कैन बी बेसिकली ड्रॉन ऑन अ straight paper. It's the same plane. Okay, so these were your three words that you see: parking orbit, transfer orbit, and intermediate orbit. So basically the three stages that is happening is, initially when you launch the satellite from the earth, the first orbit that it takes, this is called as a parking orbit. Okay, यहाँ पे parking orbit बोलते हैं इसको, and it is circular in shape. Okay, and it is around at a height of say 850 kilometer from the surface of the earth. The second stage is at this point when you are providing additional thruster. Thrust provide किया तो क्या होता है? Velocity increase होती है, decrease होती है? Yeah. हाँ, perfect. Depends upon the direction of the thrust. Okay, perfect, Vivek. In case you are driving right now, we are doing it in the direction of the motion, so definitely it will increase. Okay, yes, I agree with you, it will increase, Mohit. So once it increases, tell me what will be the change in the altitude that it is attaining. Will it increase or will it decrease? या वो वही ऑर्बिट लेगा? माने यहाँ पे तुमने वेलोसिटी बढ़ा दी, क्या वो यही ट्रैक लेगा कि ट्रैक चेंज होगा?
चेंज हो जाएगा.
Change हो जाएगा. Yes, the height, altitude will increase perfectly. So when the altitude increases, this was the initial orbit, this is the next orbit or the next stage. What is we call it as the transfer orbit. यहाँ पे velocity increase करने की जब हम बात करते हैं, the track will change, the altitude will change. Now when I'm changing the or increasing the velocity, thruster के साथ जो दूसरी चीज होती है, that is the separation. जब mass reduce, the stage 1 होता है, ये आपका stage 1 है, यहाँ पे आपका एक mass निकल गया, you are getting a certain velocity, thruster दिया. जब mass reduce होता है तो क्या होगा? Definitely आपका क्या होगा? मास रिड्यूस हुआ तो वेलोसिटी पे क्या इम्पैक्ट होगा? आपका व्हीकल लाइट वेट हो गया तो वेलोसिटी इंक्रीज होगी. परफेक्ट. सो स्टेजेस जो हम बात कर रहे हैं, फर्स्ट स्टेज, सेकेंड स्टेज एंड द थर्ड स्टेज, the reason for it is at every stage there is a separation taking place and certain mass of your vehicle is removed, and as the mass is removed it attains a higher velocity. So यहाँ से यहाँ पे उसने एक velocity ली and it is actually, first is parking orbit, circular orbit. Second is again the second stage, a separation, and then it attains a higher velocity and takes a higher altitude, which we call it as transfer orbit. In 1925, the Hoffman actually discovered that if this process of changing from one plane to the another plane, this one plane to the one orbit to another orbit in the same plane is taking place and it is in the same plane, you get a high velocity change with minimum fuel. Please understand the fuel आपने देखा था initially weight कितना? Yes, initially आपने देखा था the fuel that it is carrying is actually deciding the weight. तो इनिशियली आपका जो व्हीकल है दैट इज मच टॉलर देन द पेलोड जो एक्चुअल सैटेलाइट था, और उसके सैटेलाइट के वेट से हमारा बहुत ज्यादा वेट था आपके पूरे व्हीकल के साथ उसका. So what is happening is with this change, the vehicle weight is reducing, you are getting more velocity, and if this is happening in the same plane, you require minimum fuel. Again, it is resulting in optimum performance, requiring a lesser fuel, and hence enhancing the performance of your system and reducing the cost of launching. So Hoffman gave this theory that you get a maximum increase in the velocity if this moving from a parking orbit to a transfer orbit takes place in the same plane. Please see, यहाँ पे inclination is what I wanted to show you. It is 51.5 is your parking orbit, 50.5 almost same 1 degree का change है. Again intermediate orbit जो ये है आपका, ये intermediate orbit है. This is before intermediate orbit, before going to the final orbit. Again it is the same inclination. Please remember that these points that you see are actually an indicator that the orbit inclination with respect to the earth does not change. Minor changes are there, does not change. And that is what Hoffman said, that if you have the same orbital plane, you will get a maximum increment with minimum fuel. That was in 1925. He has already told that. So and one more important thing that I want to tell you is that what decides this inclination? Is it that you give some energy or you tilt your launching vehicle? No. The latitude of the launching vehicle decides money launching point, launching place. Do you know where is the launching point in India? Can anyone tell me? Launching point in India. Anyone knows about it? Sriharikota. Perfect. Sriharikota, why it has been, yeah, Vatsal? Sriharikota, everyone knows that. So the reason why that point has been selected, it is near to your equatorial point, that is your Tropic of Cancer, and that will give it the required inclination. And if it is near, inclination is low, what happens is फाइनली अभी उसको जियो स्टेशनरी पे लाना है, मुझे 0 डिग्री इंक्लिनेशन करना है, तो अगेन मुझे पावर देना पड़ेगा उसको इंक्लिनेशन चेंज करने के लिए. So that will again require a minimum power. So always you will not find your inclination point towards the North Pole. यहाँ पे Cape, I forgot the name, some Cape word is there. That is the last point, launching point. And why people are giving the satellites to India to launch, or basically we go to a certain place and launch our satellite, is the only reason is that latitude will actually reduce our cost of launching in the orbit and give it the required inclination. Okay, am I clear? Yes, everyone? Will prove this point. Latitude is equal to the angle of inclination. But ये दिखाई दे रहा है ना आपको, जो मैंने वीडियो दिखाया था उसमें ये सब था? Yes or no? Is it clear? Yes? Okay. We'll repeat again. First, let me put the things together. Okay. Now, next is, this is what is the theory I told you, Hoffman. He gave it this theory of how we can have an increased velocity with the minimum cost, and the transfer orbit is selected to minimize the energy required for the transfer. And what should be the point? It should be perigee or apogee, where you should be providing this incremental velocity. Perigee पे तो देखो आपकी already high velocity है, apogee पे जाते हैं तो आपकी low velocity, and that is the point where we want the altitude to actually increase the velocity. वहां पे आपको minimum velocity increase करनी, farthest point. Perfect, Kirti. So this is the apogee. He also suggested that apogee will be the right place where you should provide the incremental velocity to have again a maximum impact. So this is a launching procedure. The first is from the earth. You launch it into a parking orbit. From parking orbit, that's a circular orbit, you provide it an increment, that's the first stage. Increment, that's the second stage, you convert it into a transfer orbit, and at this point you again provide it an incremental velocity, that is a third stage, which is equal to the difference between the transfer orbit velocity and the velocity required to be in the geostationary orbit. You can even have more orbitals to reach the, if the altitude is very high, we can even use multiple altitudes to, or multiple transfer or intermediate transfer orbits to reach our for final altitude. This I had already covered with this video. So now coming to few things that are very important is, now very important part of a launch is a launching vehicle. There are two types of launching vehicle. One is an extendable, one is a space shuttle and one is an extendable launching vehicle. So one vehicle, it is simply like you launch the satellite. You launch the satellite using a vehicle which never returns, or no part of that vehicle returns back to the earth to contribute to, or can be used for the second launch. And one is the one in which we use a kind of a space shuttle which takes your satellite to, say, a parking orbit, launches it there and comes back so that we can actually reuse it. So that is very important because it saves lot of cost, and because this cost is actually, as you know, is always the deciding factor. And when you are launching this vehicle, we need a propulsion system, which we'll be studying in the next chapter. I'll be taking that in detail. The purpose of this propulsion system is that you are actually working at 0 degree, sorry, you are working at zero gravity. So zero gravity में सबसे important क्या होता है, to take your fuel from your tank to the point where you want to actually have a incremental velocity. जो एक apogeic motors use होते हैं, AKM बोलते हैं. These apogeic motors are actually providing you the incremental velocity, and the fuel has to reach this point so that the thrusters can be switched on, and then the additional thrust could be provided so that the satellite gets the additional energy. And all this is based on the Newtons. All these calculations that we do is based on the Newton's second and the third law. All these proofs are already also there, but which is not a part or scope of this course, so I'm not taking it. But everything that these calculations that somebody correctly said, is lot of calculations have to be done. They are actually derived using Newton's second and the third law. Okay, so and we also have a telemetry and tracking control system. Do you remember he was talking about the Earth station, who was actually continuously tracking the satellite location when it was getting launched and communicating with it. Then there was a time when you are testing all the features, that you have rigorous testing of all the features on the satellite after it is launched. So telemetry and tracking, TTC we call it as, telemetry and tracking control on the satellite, on the Earth station, and the sub part of it on a control station is on the Earth, telemetry and tracking is on the satellite. So in this combination of the space segment and the Earth segment help to actually test all the features, place it in the right orbit with the right altitude and the right altitude and the right velocity before it can actually be in the orbit. Okay, is it clear? So it is not as simple. We have the video also showed about the continuous tracking. We also observed all this happening in Mission Mars. The moment it was getting launched, how everyone was in the control room, controlling or observing every movement of the Mangalyaan, and actually seeing where it has reached, and once they lost a communication, for how much time they will lose the communication was actually a part of calculation also. And it was expected that after half an hour they should be actually be able to connect with it. So this I have already covered. So definitely what I have tried to say in this is the transfer orbits have a lesser velocity compared to the final orbit. So it is the stages. The rocket launch that I told you, the launcher will basically be taking it. It could be one where you consume the whole vehicle, and the other could be space. Okay, did I explain this slide? Transfer orbit. I just wanted to tell you in the transfer orbit that the velocity of a transfer orbit is much lesser than what you want at the final point. Okay, so and this is what it is helping. I had already explained you. I was explaining this rocket launch. So basically, as I told you, there are two types of vehicles. One getting fully exhausted for when, and we don't get any part of it to use it for relaunching, and the other is using a space shuttle where we are actually able to launch a vehicle to a certain or your launcher to a certain altitude, say a parking orbit, and again it returns back to be reused for other operations. Okay, so rocket launch technology generally refers to an entire set of system needed to successfully launch a vehicle, not just a vehicle itself, but also the firing control system, ground control station, as I told you, launch pad, tracking station needed for a successful launch and of the recovery. Okay, so this is very important point. Yeah. So now coming to this, yeah. ये आपका multiple stages है. He said ना it takes actually many stages or much time for it to be actually declared as suitable for communication. So this is the launching of a geostationary satellite, in an Intel satellite. So the first stage it gets launched. This is the point at which you are actually providing it the jet firing is there. It takes an orbital first, that's a circular orbit, and then again a jet stream to actually give it this particular orbit. Now you see there are some spin ups. So when you are launching it, the antenna with which your control station is communicating, it's an omnidirectional antenna. But once you get launched, then you have a directed antenna directed or pointing towards the earth. So this is what is happening, is it is spinning, orienting, reorienting, final altitude milta hai, then apogeic motor, that is again a firing. Then the antennas are still folded, right? This is a folded antenna that you see here, that is again still pointing or trying to get the received signal from the control station. Then again there is an orbital change or an altitude change from the transfer orbit, and the altitude determination, you get a velocity. Now the reorientation or for drift orbit velocity correction, uh, that is there, again 20 hours, then 23.75 hours. The drift orbit velocity correction is there, again you have corrections. And once you know you have attained the orbit, the system, the solar panels open, the antenna for communication opens, then you have a testing to see whether all the parts are actually working properly. Are they oriented or are they directed towards, means the solar panel should be directed towards the sun, that is the sun acquisition. The antenna should be directed towards the earth station. All the sensors should be directed in the right direction, so that it is actually capturing all the information, correct information, and then it is starts communicating, testing communication, and then it is declared as, that is around 2 months that he said na. This is the period right from day one to how this is happening, and after 2 months This is the point which it reaches, and it has completed the testing, orientation, attitude attainment, the right velocity, direction towards the Earth station, communication link established. All that is happening, and this is how, this is the full cycle of 2 months. So that is a spinning, de-spinning. What does these words mean is basically, we'll come in more detail in chapter number 3, but here I just want to tell you is when the satellite is moving, it gets an spinning orientation. So that is why these are omnidirectional antennas, but afterwards they become a directed antenna, because you want to communicate with a particular Earth station, receive the signal and act accordingly. It should not be that ये control station का antenna है तो वो किसी और control signal को if it receives, that will be very harmful ना. So for the life of a satellite, so it is very important that after it has actually attained everything, it starts acquiring the information from the right Earth station and control signals from the right station, so that there are no wrong informations to actually destroy your satellite. Okay, is it clear? From here I started with showing you a video on satellite launch, and in this the most important thing is there are 3 stages, minimum 3 stages that we could see in that video for launching a satellite into a geostationary orbit. And in this process what is happening is, the satellite is launched in a parking orbit, and there at the apogee point, it's a circular, so at this point you are given an additional relieving of the mass, which helps to increase the velocity, and a jet stream which increases the velocity, and it moves into an elliptical transfer orbit. So the transfer orbit is nothing but an orbit for an intermediate orbit, you can say, for increasing the velocity or attaining the velocity required at a geostationary orbit, because it is not possible to launch it directly to the required altitude with the required velocity. It has to be actually multiple rounds that it takes before it actually reaches the right orbit. One more thing I wanted to say was, when you are using the same orbital plane, these incremental velocities are actually simply getting added up, क्योंकि वो same plane है, कोई orientation change नहीं है, तो resultant is always the addition. जो पहले था delta V gets keep on adding up, and you don't lose any energy or the fuel, and therefore it requires the minimum velocity, minimum fuel, and this was identified by Hoffman, and therefore this transfer orbit also, sometimes you will see the word Hoffman orbit being used for this transfer orbit. And then the third stage, to give you the final altitude that you want to launch. Once it is launched, maybe with the thrusters, you change the orientation to convert the elliptical orbit to a circular orbit. Then after that also you have multiple stages of orienting the satellite, de-spinning it, what we call it as stabilization, so that it is oriented towards the right Earth station. Its sensors, its solar panel and antennas are actually directed towards the right direction. Okay, and then comes the next part, is how it is being launched is through a launching vehicles. And what is important is launching vehicles and the propulsion system. The propulsion system is not as simple as you say you are using for a car vehicle, where you have a tank and your power fuel gets to the engine and you start it helps you move your vehicle. It is very complicated, because this propulsion system is at a zero gravity condition and taking the fuel from that zero gravity condition to the right point where you want to have the thrusters, or the basically the apogee kick motor points where these thrusters are ignited, and given the thrust and the additional velocity, it is a complicated process, and we'll study in detail. Another important thing while launching is a role of a telemetry and tracking control system. Telemetry and tracking are the part of the satellite, and command system is as part of the earth control system. So through the signal exchanges, they come to know whether the sensors are working fine, whether they are directing in the right direction, and accordingly the commands are sent back to the satellite so that it changes its orientation and is actually directed or pointing towards the right station. And also I talked about the launch vehicle. There are two type of launch vehicle. One is extendable one, and the other is a vehicle which loses its we lose basically the vehicle one once we are when we are yeah when we are launching it. The space shuttle is a kind of an example where the where it is reusable, and the launcher, a part of a launcher comes back to the earth, basically takes it to a parking orbit, launches the rocket there and comes back and can be reused. So this reduces the cost for basically, because this is actually reusable, so it is reducing the cost of the next launch. And regarding when it is getting fully lost, you are not able to use this launch vehicle, and there is lot of cost every time involved in making the launcher. So and after that I talked about the full 2 month cycle of satellite becoming operational or basically available for communication. Is there are a lot of things that the satellite is undergoing, right from a parking orbit to the transfer orbit, de-spinning operation, attaining the right velocity, right inclination, directing, opening of the solar panels and the antenna, and direction or directing those towards the right earth station and the command station so that it receives the correct signal. So this is the whole cycle of launching. Then why don't we use a reusable launch vehicle? Now the launching technology basically has improved a lot as compared to initially. Basically, I would say initially we were dependent upon such launch vehicle where it was fully lost. But now everywhere we are looking into the cost saving and making it everyday usable communication system. So we now depend upon these space shuttles. So it's not that we are not using it, we are definitely using it. Some systems may not be safe, your launcher itself is so heavy, then accordingly वैसा space shuttle नहीं available होगा आपके पास to carry it to that particular altitude. So then we need to actually depend upon that vehicle which gets fully lost. तो पहला vehicle बनता है, then आपका this saving mode बनता है. So that is the only reason. The angle of inclination is equal to the latitude of the launching station, and that is why more launching stations are towards the equator and not towards the northern poles. So this is your earth. Okay, what I'm trying to prove, I told you I'm trying to prove that the latitude is equivalent to, and this is your equator. Suppose this is my earth station, this is your inclination, this is your azimuth, and this is the latitude of the earth station, of the launching site. This is my you that this is a spherical triangle, right? This is on the spherical surface, this is a spherical triangle, and for spherical triangle you have Napier's law rule, which says that cos of I is equivalent to cos of lambda, right? Lambda is this, right? Lambda, I'm using the word, into sine of AZ. Okay. Now tell me, for prograde orbit, I is equivalent, I is between 0 and 90, correct? So when I is between 0 and 90, cos of I will be positive. right? And what about lambda? Lambda is lambda is varying. Can you tell me the range of lambda? Lambda का क्या range होगा? Lambda is nothing but latitude, right? What is I? I is inclination, Az is azimuth, and lambda. ये क्या है आपका I जो मैं बोल रही हूँ, ये यहाँ से हम लोग का, this is your sub satellite point, sub satellite track है ये, that is on the surface of the earth, sub satellite track. Okay, now tell me what is the range of lambda? Latitude का range क्या होता है? अगर इक्वेटर आपका 0 डिग्री लैटिट्यूड है तो इट इज -90 टू +90. ओके, तो लैटिट्यूड आपका -90 टू +90 वेरी हो रहा है. ओके, नाउ व्हाट इज टू बी डन इज, नाउ टेल मी प्रोग्रेड ऑर्बिट के लिए cos ऑफ i पॉजिटिव है, sin थीटा क्या होगा, cos ऑफ लैम्डा क्या होगा? Az azimuth value varies from 0 to 180. So what is happening is sin of theta is positive, right? So cos of lambda, it has to be, yeah, positive, yes. Okay, now what is to be done is for maximum, right? I want to know what is the maximum inclination. For cos of I maximum, यहाँ पे होने के लिए sin को maximum लेंगे हम, yes or no? So sin अगर हम, I'm talking about cos of I minimum is equivalent to cos of lambda into sine of Az, that should be maximum. Yes or no? Do you agree with this? When I say cos of I is sine of Az is maximum, cos of I will be minimum. Yes or no? Yes or no? cos maximum कब होता है? जब 0 होता है. sin maximum कब होता है? जब Az yes 90 होता है, right? So when I say sin is maximum, cos is minimum. I hope you remember this relation. Only Kirti is understanding. What about others? Now when I say sine of Az is maximum, what is the maximum value of sine of Az? It is 1. Okay, so sine of Az, when it is 1, what do I have? Minimum cos of I, that is when I is minimum, is equivalent to cos of lambda, right? Or I is equivalent to lambda. Do you agree to this? So this is what I told you, that the minimum inclination is equivalent to nothing but the latitude of the launching site, right? So we proved it here that this can be asked you as a question, that prove that or derive your minimum angle of inclination is equivalent to your lambda of the your latitude of the launching site. I repeat this, this is an important proof. ये आपका अर्थ का सरफेस है, ये आपका अर्थ लॉन्चिंग साइट है, दैट इज फ्रॉम वेयर यू आर लॉन्चिंग. सो ये लॉन्चिंग साइट का लैटिट्यूड है, रिप्रेजेंटेड बाय लैम्डा, एंड दिस इज योर सब सैटेलाइट पाथ ट्रैक प्रोजेक्शन. तो ये क्या होगा? एजिम्यूथ, यू नो ना, एंगल बिटवीन द सब सैटेलाइट पॉइंट एंड द अर्थ स्टेशन. ये आपका फ्रॉम द ज्योग्राफी, ये आपका क्या हो जाएगा? दिस इज योर एजिम्यूथ. And this is nothing but the angle of inclination. अब ये क्या है? Surface of the earth पे, which is a sphere. So this is a spherical triangle. Now Napier's rule applied to spherical triangle, which says that for a spherical triangle, cos of I equal to cos of lambda into sine of Az. Now my task is to find the minimum. For that, what I do is I talk about I for a prograde orbit for which cos of I will be positive. For cos of I to be positive, these two should be either positive or negative, right? But sine of Az is what? it is AZ is varying from 0 to 180. तो sign तो पूरा positive होगा. So lambda can have only values. Now basically we are talking about a northern hemisphere का यहाँ पे case, which will be from 0 to 90 because it has to be a positive. Now I have to find out what is my minimum angle of inclination. The minimum means this will be maximum value. For this to be maximum, sine of AZ will be maximum. So what do I say for any particular lambda? For this to be minimum, this has to be maximum. That is, I take a particular case when sine of AZ is maximum, the value of sine of AZ maximum is 1. And therefore, cos of I minimum is equal to cos of lambda, or I minimum is equal to I lambda. And hence we prove that the angle of inclination is nothing but the latitude of the launching site. And therefore, for geostationary launch, we prefer basically many launches are taking place from Sriharikota. The reason being it is near your Tropic of Tropic of Cancer, and that is having a minimum inclination. And then when finally setting it in the orbit and doing the thrusters, you require minimum energy to change its inclination to the required inclination. Is it clear? ये proof important है. Space segment. So can anyone tell me what are the components when I say a space segment? Tell me what are the components of a space segment? Yeah, can I start? Everyone is there? Yeah. Tell me, my question is, what are the components? Your chapter talks about space segment and the Earth segment. I'm first focusing on the space segment. First, yes, satellite. Yes, orbit. We have taken orbit in detail in unit number 2. Earth segment, it is Earth station. Power source, perfect. I'm right now taking the points of the space segment, Kirti. I'm not writing Earth station because it's a part of Earth segment. So right now I'm taking the space segment. So satellite, orbit we have already covered. Then the power, what else? और भी क्या है? Antenna, sensors, that is thrusters. Thrusters is nothing but a part of propulsion system. Okay. What else? Antenna, there are two types of antenna. One for receiving the signals from the control station, and one is for communicating with the Earth station. Transponders. Transponder is a word used for transmitters and the receivers together, right? That is why the satellites are also called as transponders. Everything. Now, when I talk about satellite space segment, definitely the two major part of space segment are satellite and orbit. And orbit, since we have covered in detail the parts of a satellite that we need to understand. A satellite in detail is the power, antennas, sensors, propulsion system, transponder, as you said. Let us check as. So this is a configuration of a satellite subsystem. This is a satellite that it will look like, the space management system, which will have two parts. One is a bus, that is, and the other is a payload. So we'll be taking them in detail. The payload consists of your telemetry and tracking control, repeaters, antenna, and your bus consists of electrical power, as you said, the propulsion system. Three more things that you did not cover were, one was a structure, second is the thermal. As you know, there are a lot of radiation, sunstorm and other things in the space which may result, and basically in space there is a huge temperature variation from very low to very high. So that results in lot of temperature variations which may actually harm your system, and therefore a thermal control is a very important part of a satellite subsystem. And attitude and orbit control. What is an attitude? It's not your behavioral attitude. The word attitude in your satellite communication is used for maintaining its basically the orientation with respect to the sun, with respect to the earth station, that is the height, the direction, everything. So, and that is maintaining the attitude. So attitude is basically measured in 3 parameters: yaw, roll and pitch. It is not x, y, z in space. As I said, there is yaw, roll and pitch. We'll go into the details of that. Is this point clear? This is a simple sub-satellite system consisting of 2 major parts: bus and the payload. The payload is mainly basically the part which is actually receiving the control signal, that is telemetry and tracking part. The repeater, yes, tell me what is a repeater? Communication में repeater क्या है? Boost the signal to avoid the loss. Signal boosters, yes. But here the repeater will have more function as compared to not only boosting the signal level. Yeah, it receives the signal, amplifies the signal and transmit it to the extended range. Signal conditioning, perfect. So basically the purpose of this repeater is 3R जो हम करते थे: re-amplify, retransmit, reshape and retransmit. And in addition to that, it also has one more property that we call it as that it has to do, you know, na? Satellite communication has two frequencies, one for an uplink and one for the downlink. The third part that this, one more additional thing that this repeater has to do is frequency conversion. Okay, so telemetry and telemetry tracking and control, we have only 2 parts in this satellite. So the telemetry telemetry and the command system that we have it here, and the other part tracking which is done by the earth station is on the earth station. I think I wrongly said telemetry and tracking on the satellite. It's telemetry and command on the satellite, and tracking is on the earth station. Okay, is this much clear? The circuit diagram for your sub-satellite system. Okay, now we'll go to each system one by one and try to understand them in detail. So first is your communication system में हमारा आएगा repeaters. So repeaters, what are they? There are 2 types of repeater. One is a transparent repeater and other is a active repeater. Now, what is a transparent repeater? Transparent word itself says that for it, it is like receiving the signal, and it is amplifier, and it is actually not doing any other operation but only doing the signal conversions and sending it to the downlink antenna. So uplink antenna say it is receiving it, demultiplexing it into the various channels, amplifying it each part, and this is an amplification part, and then again multiplexing all the signals together, converting it to the downlink frequency and just sending it back. That much it is doing. It is not doing that other operations of reshaping, retiming. As I said, 3R operation: re-amplify, reshape, retime, resend it. So in addition to that, that's a simple, any repeater that it will do is transparent, not doing anything to the shaping or enhancing the signal to noise ratio, because when you are amplifying the signal, it is a noise also getting amplified, so it is not actually enhancing your signal to noise ratio. Or the active repeaters regenerate. It's an active operation that it is doing is it also does the demodulation and the modulation. So it is receiving the signal, as you see, The uplink antenna, it has demultiplex the signal. Each receiver, they will demodulate the signal, that is derive the baseband or do the baseband processing, again modulate it, amplify it, convert the frequency, and send it through the downlink antenna. That is how it is regenerating the signal and actively involved in enhancing the signal to noise ratio. Is the difference clear? You are actually asked to differentiate between a transparent repeater and a regenerative repeater. So transparent is nothing but a repeater which does not perform the reshape and the retime, but it does amplify it and convert to downlink frequency. वो दो operation तो करना ही है by default. But regenerative, it demod. How does it do the reshape and retiming? Definitely, it has to demodulate, do the baseband processing to reshape and retime it, again modulate it, amplify it, convert it to the required frequency of downlink, and send it through the downlink. Now, the next important part is your propulsion system. So, propulsion system, as you see, yeah, something is there in the chat. Yeah. You have the oxidizer tank, the fuel tank, pumps, turbine, gas generator, the valves, and the thrust chamber. Now, what is this all about is you have a fuel and it mixes in the gas generator and then it is released at the thruster. I told you the major challenge with the propulsion system is that it's not easy for the fuel to flow. Had it been a liquid, easily flows in on the earth is you place it or you pump it and then it. But what is happening is the major thing that is a problem here is you need to keep them at a very high pressure so that as soon as these walls or the pumping is there, they come mix in this generator or the chamber, and these control walls allow the, basically they are like a tap, correct? So tap ka kitna opening karna hai, whether how much thrust is to be applied, it is to be full thrust or minimum small thrust, because there is small deviation, I need to bring it back by a small amount. So all these decisions are taken at one point on the earth and then sent it to this wall through the TTC system in the satellite, and then this valve is actually opening and allowing that gas to come to the thrust chamber and release the thrust. Is it clear? Very simple. You have, because oxidation, if you cannot keep everything, normally the kind of, does anyone know what are the fuels that are used? सैटेलाइट कम्युनिकेशन में कौन सा फ्यूल कभी नाम सुना है? सैटेलाइट में क्या फ्यूल यूज होता है? हैव यू हर्ड ऑफ what is the fuel being used? Yeah, oxygen. No, Priyanka says no. No, oxygen नहीं है. बताइए और सोचिए. Hydrazine, have you heard of that? And there is lot of research, I would say. Hydrogen fuel, yes, correct. There is lot of research going on in this field, because what is happening is the higher is the efficiency of the fuel, the lesser is the fuel that you need to carry, and lesser is the fuel, the lighter is the weight. So there is lot of research that is going on to increase the efficiency of the fuel that you are carrying when you are launching your satellite, to reduce the weight. So this high fuel is pumped. Definitely this pumping does not take. So nitrogen gas is used to create the pressure in these pumps so that it pushes the liquid. Otherwise this will not move further. And once it is moved in the gas chamber, it generates, and depending upon the command, don't think that you go means at the satellite, it by itself opens a valve. It will be very dangerous to take any wrong decision by the satellite. So all the decisions are taken at the Earth station. They are re-verified and sent back to the control system. which gives the command to the valve as how much to open, how much valve should be open, and what should be the pressure with which it should be released. And then your thruster chamber generates the pressure, releases the gas in the required direction, and then we are able to basically control the position or the orbit of the satellite. Is it clear? The second block. Second block, is it clear? Propulsion system. Now coming to the most important part of your satellite is telemetry, tracking, and the command. So this I'll be doing in two parts. One is the telemetry system, the other is the command system, and then tracking we will take while doing the Earth system. So telemetry, the first part is, it talked about, you remember he talked about in the launching satellite, the sensor input. So sensors are nothing but they are the transducers. So you may have attached the sensors regarding temperature variations, the kind of whether the flow variations, or any kind of heat being generated, or any other sensors. So the first part of a telemetry system is where it is, or from where it is taking the input from the satellite. So it is placed on the satellite, taking the inputs, various inputs, and converting those analog inputs into a digital converter. And then these digital inputs are sent for modulation, the digital modulation, and sent through transmitter to the satellite, through the satellite to the Earth station. So it is basically not that we are sending only when the Earth station asks for this telemetry signal. You can say that there is a timer that after every, say, few minutes, you will be sending the inputs to the Earth station, and the system at the Earth will be actually monitoring whether the altitude is the same, whether the inclination has changed, whatever be the parameters that are important to maintain the satellite in the orbit and communicate with the Earth station. All the sensors are placed, and they are simply modulated, formatted, and then modulated means sending at a particular frequency. So telemetry, since it is sending a less amount of data, this may not require a larger bandwidth. Okay, so this transmitter sends it at a particular frequency, which is only for the control station. The control station takes those sensor inputs, processes at the Earth station, and accordingly generate the commands as what is to be performed or nothing is to be performed, and those commands are sent back to the satellite. But then who processes those commands? It's not the telemetry system, but it is the command system that processes those commands. So it has, the first is an antenna through which it receives the data. As I told you, the data rate is very low because there are few commands that, and we don't need to actually have a high data rate because the amount of data is less. So 100 bps is the speed, the data rate. Then there is a command receiver. There is always a duplication of that command that is only for baseband signal, basically recovering the baseband command, that is for the telemetry. And then that command is decoded, and there is a verification process. Why there is a verification process? Because as I told you, to make the system reliable and not allow any wrong, not allow any wrong decision to be implemented is very important. And therefore you need to be very sure about whether the decision that has been taken at the satellite correct, or we need to actually do certain action. So every time the command is received, the first thing is it is decoded, and for the verification process again it is encoded, and the send back for the verification of the data back to the Earth station to understand that it is correct or not. The duplication is done to, in case it is has lost the data, the command, and once the command is verified, that is you get back the signal from the earth station that this is the command, means second time also you get the same result of a decoder, you send the command execution. As I told you, for a propulsion system, command execution, how it has to be done, it has to be simply opening up of the walls, increasing the pressure in the chambers so that your fluid flows to the required point where the thrust is to be generated. So that is how the command execution is done, by sending the signals to the right location after decoding, verification, back from the earth station, and then it is sent back. Okay. Four things we have covered right from a satellite. What are the components of a, basically this is a block diagram of a satellite. We have right now we are actually discussing one part. So we talk about communication part, that is a repeater. There are two types of repeater, the transparent repeater and the regenerative or the active repeater. Then we talked about the propulsion system in the bus part, for how the propulsion system is taking the fluid from the tank to the required point. And we also talked about telemetry and tracking, where we talked about telemetry and the command system on the satellite, which is actually generating the signals for the command station on the earth about various sensor output. The command station on the earth is actually processing those inputs and taking the decision, sending it to the satellite to perform various operations. But before performing those operations, the command system is receiving, decoding, verifying it with the earth station, and then only giving the command for the execution. Then coming to the bus part, is another important part is your attitude control. Now, attitude control, it could be, again, we'll come to the two major ways in which you control your attitude is your active and passive. Active is like, definitely you have lot of inputs coming, decisions being taken, and accordingly you are actually making the dynamics or changes in the position of the satellite. And passive is you have a system, and that system works on its own to keep the satellite stable. The first thing that I want to tell you is, again, define an attitude, because the people get confused. Altitude madam baat kar rahe ho ki attitude? Because when I talk about satellite, it's altitude, then why are you talking about attitude? The word is correct, it's attitude. The attitude is a word used for keeping the sensors pointing to in the right direction. Attitude control has these functionalities. Sensors pointing to the right direction. Solar panels always pointing in the right direction so that it is producing the maximum amount of power. And the third thing is antennas always pointing in the right direction so that it is communicating with the earth station. Communication antennas, the command antennas, all pointing in the right direction so that you are not taking the wrong decisions. Okay, so it's not altitude. I have not done any spelling mistake. It's attitude control. Okay. So what it is, there is an expected value of attitude. I'll come to the details of attitude. How do you define an attitude? As I said, attitude is defined with respect to three parameters: yaw, roll, and pitch. So they are with reference to the earth. Okay, the center of the earth, the tangent to the track. Okay, so these are the parameters. So the first thing is you need to have an expected value. So there is an input basically that this is what it is there, and there is a system which finds a deviation from the expected values of these parameters, and there is a control algorithm which is given to an actuator. Actuator is basically creating means satellite antenna, so basically changing the position, maybe you need to change the attitude dynamics, that is your role and pitch. So any inputs, and then it goes to the changes in the satellite attitude. This definitely, you know, that this is a system which is taking certain decision. It cannot be an open loop, it has to be a feedback loop. So these values are again fed back through the orbital dynamics, sensor model inputs. There is always a predictive algorithm. You know, the predictive algorithm is, we are expecting certain things to be at a certain values, and then you take those decisions to reduce the processing also. So there's some deterministic or determination algorithms are there. Using this, we again give back the input, and then it's seen that whether it is correct or again needs to be changed, and this is a continuous loop. Now what is happening in this? This is a part of an active control where you have an actuators which is actually always controlling the dynamics and making the things. But this actuators will definitely, how you are working with these actuators, they will definitely need more power. More power requirement will be every time there if I need to perform certain operations. But that is not what we are looking at. We want a certain things which should be requiring minimum amount of power. So there are certain, instead of actuators, there are certain passive mechanisms also used to maintain the yaw, roll and pitch. That is because when your satellite is in at such a high altitude, there is a zero gravity condition. So if you provide a certain momentum to a particular part on the satellite, what will happen is it will continue to move with the same momentum, because there is no force acting on it, you know, na, for there is no friction, nothing acting on it, and it will continue to move and provide certain uh, control over this yaw, roll and pitch. So for that, the flywheel, do you remember the flywheel experiment that you performed in I think semester 1? When did you perform that flywheel experiment? Inertia wala, which I think physics first year, did you perform that? Yeah, sem 1, correct. So what did you observe in that was the weight was such that when you provided a momentum, it continued, but it had to die down because on the earth there is lot of friction of the air which is stopping it. But when we go to the high altitude, say geostationary, there is no gravity, no air which is actually acting on it and will. So what is happening is this flywheel concept is used as three flywheels are used in the direction of yaw, roll and pitch, and the momentum given to them tries to maintain these values of yaw, roll and pitch, and therefore we don't need an additional active actuators to maintain the attitude dynamics. Is the point clear? Am I clear? ये actuator part, it can be active or can be passive, right? So now our task is what is done is, normally initially क्या करते थे आप लोगों ने, initially स्पुतनिक का शेप क्या था याद है? मैंने आप लोगों को दिखाया था, स्पुतनिक दिखाया था कि नहीं? स्पुतनिक का शेप हिस्ट्री पढ़ाते समय बताया था ना, स्पुतनिक का शेप. It was a circular ball. If I had not told you, Sputnik was a circular ball, and उसको जब स्पेस में लॉन्च किया ना, तो वो अपने एक्सिस पे ही रोटेट करते हुए. So basically the purpose of this actuator is stabilize your satellite and basically stabilize your attitude. So that can be done active or passive. Active requires more energy, passive requires no energy. But both have an advantage and a disadvantage. Passive, if I keep it as it, there could be certain cases that some storms or certain things like that may result in change in attitude, and we may not be able to bring it back. Active, although it is always keeping the satellite attitude on track, but requiring lot of energy. So what is done on a satellite? This actuator is a combination of active and passive. We use the flywheel in yaw, roll and pitch directions, and also have an active actuators, means a command system, which will try, in case there is lot of deviation, try to bring it back. So this combination gives us the best result with the minimum fuel or the power required. Fuel nahi use karungi, power is the right word that is used. Okay, thank you. So the first is a configuration. So हमने देखा कि satellite configuration, a satellite can be divided into two parts. One is a bus and a payload. The payload consists of a telemetry, tracking and command system and a repeater. There are two types of repeaters, the regenerative repeaters and the transparent repeaters. Yeah. Yeah. So regenerative and the transparent repeaters. So telemetry and command system is nothing but a system. Telemetry, it has two parts. One is telemetry, which takes the input from the sensors and sends it to the Earth control station, which is actually an input for the control station to see whether the satellite is on right track, maybe with respect to the inclination, attitude, power generation, propulsion, thrusters required, all these commands through the sensors, maybe the fuel, life is ending, whatever it is sending. Cameras are pointing in the right direction or not. So what it does, it sends to the Earth station, and then Earth station takes that telemetry information and processes that and generates the command and sends it back to the satellite. The command station, what it does, it takes those inputs and decodes the command as what is to be performed. But since it will be very costly if any wrong command is performed, always there is a verification process, and duplication means basically to increase the reliability. So that command is again sent back to Earth station to find out whether it has decoded correctly, and one receiving the confirmation, that command is sent for execution to the right location as whatever may have to be performed. And hence this command may be controlling various operations on the satellite, because no decision is taken on the satellite. All the decisions are taken on the Earth station, control station, and which sends it back information required to the satellite. Then we also studied the first part in the bus was we studied the bus part was a propulsion system, where you have a fuel tank, a mixing tank, a pump, and there is a pressure being maintained in this using a nitrogen gas, so that on receiving the command, when this valve open as per the required pressure, these fuel flows into the chamber, and the pressure is generated with gas is released into the thruster chamber to generate the required pressure or the thrust. Then I started with the telemetry and tracking. I had already covered that, so this I did it. Then attitude control, I just started with it to explain you that attitude is nothing but three reference point directions, your role and pitch. It can have it has an actuators to actually maintain the attitude through a feedback system. These actuators could be an active or passive. Active requires a continuous monitoring and use of power to maintain the attitude dynamics, but passive uses the flywheel effect to actually maintain these attitude dynamics. But both have an advantage and a disadvantage. Passive does not require an additional energy, but there are chances that it may deviate from the reference point, and we may sometimes lose our communication if we do not maintain the attitude parameters. And similarly, active has a disadvantage that although it is always keeping the attitude in control, but it is not able to or it is using lot of power. So the best way to have both the right attitude as well as minimum power is, we use in actual satellite, we use the combination of active and passive. So we'll start with that in the next class. Any doubts if you have? Any doubts?